So now we're going to talk about role fulfillment in terms of first op. What is the critical job for first op?
Set up the opposition bench and then bring forth their constructive.
Yeah, and set up the opposition from BP means that it's very obvious how our points are in direct opposition fundamentally at the case line to this side, and specifically in direct opposition to the model, but still playing with the model. So I use that model, but we're in direct opposition to it. Okay, so sometimes in C we clash based on the specifics or the specific arguments. In BP, my job is their big point, my big point, run into each other all the time. Farther down the bench we go, the better I have to be at that. Yep.
What if you both agree with the same principles, but you say fundamentally we think this group should do it instead? Is that diametrically opposed enough?
Yeah.
Or?
So what do you think of like minor counter models in BP?
Okay, that's a good and advanced question. Okay, so then there's 2 points to the answer. One mistake that opposition bench frequently makes is conceding half of their constructive matter. So I would not say yes to that if you're giving up a major point that typically would be clashed on. Sometimes debaters think that's good strategy, but it's actually giving up. A way you can fake that is build an even if argument. So you can just say, we don't agree with this, but even if we did, we still wouldn't agree with the model for this. So that's a way to cheat that, is to just build it as even if. Second thing I would say is, if it's different models, then it becomes a debate about plan. So that narrows the debate really tightly in, and it means that you better know a ton of spec knowledge about the debate. So only do that if you're like, oh, do I know this topic? And if you do, then it's actually strategically brilliant because it leaves nothing for second half. So that's a strategic reason to do it. Okay, so we're going to go back to prop now. By the time the second speaker on that first prop team is done, a really critical thing that we're looking to see is that as much ground as possible is used up by the first prop team. So what does that mean to use up the ground? Yeah.
It can also be called burn the turf, but it's basically when you take a lot of arguments so that your back half has a very limited choice, but you have to argue all the arguments you did very well.
Right. So it's very hard to do in 5 minutes. So the way you do it well in 5 minutes is you put yourself somewhere really big philosophically, and you make sure that your arguments encompass a lot of things, so when they come up in second half, they'll appear to be the same arguments over again. So a really critical thing, a cheat that you use when you're the second speaker on the first proposition team is, you use what are potential constructive arguments later as clash. You use it up as clash. So then it appears it was yours, and when other people bring it up, your judges have it written as yours down first. So very useful strategy. Burn additional ground with clash. Don't just use your major case line for clash as well. She's like, yes!
This is why this is my favorite style.
The strategy.
Okay. So